welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. My name is Dustin. I'm here with my friends JD and David. What is up, fellas?
Hey, Dustin, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. We're about to get a spring snowstorm where I'm at. But, you know, as long as it only lasts for 24 hours, I think we're getting 6 inches. I think we're getting a ton of snow tomorrow overnight.
Wow.
So that's going to be fun. But I'm kind of tired. I'm ready for spring, summer. I'm ready for all that. I'm tired of the winter weather. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm supposed to get some snow here as well. I think it's one of the most seasons of snow we've had in a few years. So I'm about ready for it to be over as well. JD, have you had any snow?
No snow here. It's spring break though, so have family, friends coming in. We've been going to the beach. Got a little glow going. I don't know if you can tell. Got a little sun.
Oh, yeah.
It's good stuff, though. I've been enjoying the break from school.
I heard a rumor that you're going to be in the park on Monday.
That's the hope. Yes, that is the hope. I'm going to try. I think we might go to Hollywood Studios. We've got some friends from high school actually coming to stay with us, and they love the parks. So we have one day, so we're trying to decide between Hollywood or Magic Kingdom. So we'll see.
Man, I've seen
fantastic.
I've this week in the news. There's been a lot of. One of you guys mentioned last week the conversation that one of the Disney execs made about the parks changing forever and managing people. It's been really interesting watching the response of media to that. I mean, there have been a lot of articles this week about the parks changing in not just Disney media, but in like major news media. I've seen a lot of articles.
Has the conversation progressed kind of beyond what we were talking about, that even though they're saying this looks like that the reality on the ground doesn't seem like we're there yet?
Well, I think most of the comments that I've seen have been more about, well, they're saying this is going to make the park experience better, but what it's really going to do is create more revenue. It's things like that. Yeah. It's like everybody kind of sees through the, just what it really is about. But I mean, hey, I just keep going. With everything that you love, you deal with the things that you don't like. That's just life. So, we'll see how long it lasts and how it affects people. But looks like the numbers are still really strong in the park. I really still think it must be the effects of Genie Plus, on everything, because the lines are still really long. I'm interested to see what you guys find if you're there on Monday.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I'm excited to go because now it actually is that spring break season. So if it's any less than it was when we went pre-spring break, then that will be funny to see. I actually was looking at the app the other day just because I was interested, and I looked at Magic Kingdom, and the lines were everything was under an hour, and I was like, "What in the world?" I was like, "How in the world is it under an hour?" We were just there a couple of weeks ago, and it was 2 hours for everything. And then I looked at the weather in Orlando, and it was like pouring down thunderstorms. And I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes a little more sense." Like I'll let it slide that the lines are a little less crazy. But it was a funny thing that I kind of discovered.
Yeah, it's gonna get to the point that you have to book your trip during hurricane season to have a low crowd. Like, when's it going to rain? That's when we'll go.
Yeah.
Hot tip. Disney hack, book your vacation during hurricane season.
Yeah.
And even better if you can get a hurricane while it's coming through.
Yeah.
So you'll have the whole park to yourself.
Yeah. There you go.
So did you guys catch the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer?
I did,
yes.
What'd you think?
I'm excited.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it looks great. Looks very high budget. At least the trailer did to me.
Yeah, high quality. It will be interesting to see how many episodes they do. If they do that standard, I think 6 would be great because so many people have been asking for, Kenobi needs his own trilogy. So if they give him so many episodes and they're hour-long episodes, it will be a lot of content. But the trailer was really action-packed, some classic songs in there. I know a lot of people are getting excited about it. Some cool characters. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Inquisitors. Do you guys know who these Inquisitors are? Mm-hmm. They're kind of this
like Jedi hunters, right?
Yeah, they are, and it's a really cool concept that they kind of had to come up with. And some video games I've played, Fallen Order, you battle against these Inquisitors. So it will be interesting to see an Inquisitor's level versus, Kenobi, Master Jedi. It'll be interesting to see how they do that for sure.
Well, he's also in hiding. I think that's going to be an interesting thing too. Is like you have Jedi in exile, and they're all the ones that are left are hidden. And the whole idea is that do they get exposed? Do they get found? You see him in the trailer actually looking at little Luke, with some binoculars, and that's really interesting too to how all that's going to play. He's always looming in the background, keeping a watchful eye over the young one that will ultimately bring balance to the Force. But dude, I think the trailer looked incredible. Looks well done once again, and cannot wait. I think it's May when that comes out. To see that. I know that there's a new Pixar movie that's out today. Is it at the theaters and Disney Plus or just Disney Plus?
It just released into Disney Plus.
Okay.
Which they changed, right? That wasn't it supposed to be
originally
theater released?
Originally, I think that's what the plan was, because I know that there were some, there was some media about that as well, that some of the Pixar crowd was really wanting it to release in the theater and did not want it just to go to Disney Plus, but that looks like the plan.
It's dropped today, and we're recording on Friday, the day that drops, and I don't think any of us have seen it yet, but I plan on watching it hopefully tonight and check it out. Maybe next episode we can report back.
Hey, we talked about this a few weeks ago, some things that are coming, but the live-action remake of Pinocchio with Tom Hanks as Geppetto, they released some publicity stills this week, and Pinocchio looks like Pinocchio. I mean, it's the same representation, just in different animation.
We're going to talk about Pinocchio a little later today. It's on our bracket.
Well, it survived.
But I have a lot of I don't know why that I love Pinocchio so much. I don't know. It's probably the movie I watched the most as a kid. I cannot wait to see that. It's one of the most intriguing live action remakes because Tom Hanks is in it. Maybe one of the greatest living actors, up with Joaquin Phoenix and probably Chris Pratt. I'm just joking. But I'm excited. I think this really got some potential to do some incredible things. It's such an old classic story, that's kind of woven itself in.
I believe it comes out in the fall. I think it's a fall release. And
something comes out a little sooner.
Yeah.
Next week, actually, Disney Plus is all of the Netflix Marvel things that they took off, including Daredevil. Did I get this right that they're also releasing the other ones as well?
They are, and I did see that they are. There will be some parental controls that will come with all this.
Well, I hope so, because I pulled up a Variety article that says Parents TV Council slams Disney Plus for adding Daredevil and more. Saying it destroys your brand. And to be perfectly honest, we've talked about this throughout, that's an interesting move for Disney Plus to make, to put these on there. We've both seen Daredevil and know how graphically violent it is, and the language is a little more coarse and it's just much darker. And then you get to Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and it's much more for adults, right? And and it is interesting that would release on Disney Plus, because in my mind it was always those sort of things go to Hulu, right? And then the more family-friendly things go to Disney Plus. But that apparently seems to be changing. What are your thoughts on that?
Does Disney own Hulu, or do they just have a good partnership? Yes. Okay, so they
own it. They own that, and ESPN. That's why it's in a package like that.
A bundle.
I personally, it's just that I as a Disney fan, and I like that brand of media. I like good, wholesome family entertainment. I like that. Doesn't have to be geared towards preschoolers or children. I think there's just a good Marvel is a representation of that to me, and the Star Wars trilogy is that it's for everybody, and I like entertainment like that. So when other things that don't fit that brand are on the same screen, it's to me it's a little more cluttered. The things that don't look like they fit in and match the brand to me, but it just seems like Disney Plus is not just about Disney; it's just everything they own, and it's all going to be up there. It's like some things don't look like they belong to me, but it just seems like a new way of doing it. So,
well, they're doing this. Do you think it's a smart move, or do you think it's kind of ill-advised? Do you think this costs them subscribers or gains them subscribers net?
I don't know. I don't know.
I could argue it both. I could argue both sides.
Well, I don't know the numbers enough to really know that, but it is interesting when they put something like the Beatles documentary on Disney instead of saying, why don't we put that on Hulu?
Exactly.
Things that I don't really understand that, but
that's exactly it, though. It's like, why, when you own Hulu, and I'm sure there's a reasoning behind it, but it seems like a great way to promote Hulu, promote your bundle deal. If you would just put all of your Disney-owned content on your other Disney-owned platform that doesn't have the Disney Plus name, you would. It seems like everyone would still be happy. It would promote your bundle sales, and it would be great. So it is interesting why they want to specifically put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll see about these parental controls too. Let's see how innovative they are with that, because most of the time parental controls are all good and well, but you put the accounts of each person and their age, and it filters out inappropriate things per age. But when you log in right now, any of my kids could just jump on my account, right? If I'm not there, they could just peruse, and there's no differentiation to what can happen or whatever. And what's super annoying is when you get on these things and you have to put in like a code to watch something. And then, I remember when my kids, you'd set stuff for, they're 8 years old. Well, then that knocks out like, some cartoons that I don't care if they watch. So I'm always to go in and type in a code, and it's super annoying. And then finally you do it enough, you just turn it off, right? And kind of what I loved about Disney Plus is that you can your kids are free to roam, and you don't really have to worry about them finding stuff that's objectionable or too objectionable anyway. But that could be changing. Jessica Jones is on there. That's something I'm going to have to watch and make sure my kids don't see, which creates a bit of a challenge. So maybe they're innovating parental controls. Maybe they're going to come out with the most innovative, awesome development for parental controls that's ever been devised, and it'll make the platform even better and make everybody happy. But this parent group is not happy that Variety was talking about, and I do think that they have a point. I get it
for sure.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised all that's coming to Disney Plus. But I understand that, they're going to want to get those characters into the new MCU probably, so they want to get people familiar with them. So if they pop up in other movies, that but it would be nice if they'd go in and re-edit some things. But everybody's not going to want that.
It might expand the subscriber base beyond families. Like I do know some people that are like, well, Disney Plus, that's for, families with kids, people with kids. And I'm single. I don't have kids, maybe it's something to entice a few more of that demographic. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll see. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I am excited to finish watching Daredevil. I finished season 1. I know, David, you finished it all. But I'm rewatching it and got through season 1, ready for season 2. But, are you guys ready to move to round 2 of our bracket?
Yes. Oh, heck yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, let me ask you first before we do this. Do you have any regrets or things you wish you could take back from round 1?
God, regrets. The thing is, all these movies were so great that you could really argue either side. The tough one that I was looking back on, but I was like, it was 2-1. I could have flipped this one, was the Jungle Book live action versus The Force Awakens, because they're so completely different, and I love Star Wars, but also Jungle Book's my favorite live action, so that was definitely one that I was looking back on. But I felt pretty strong. I mean, I agree with a lot of what we were saying.
Yeah, there were a couple that, I was like, man, that was such a tough call, and, where you go, I don't know if I picked – in some cases I felt like I picked what was probably the best movie. In some cases, I went with something that was just more nostalgic to me, but probably wasn't the best movie. There were a couple I chose that I thought that one was probably a little problematic, and but it was my childhood, and so I picked it, and that's a tough call.
I love it is a tough call. I love it. That's the beauty of brackets, right? You get March Madness coming, and people get bounced out, and they shouldn't have been. The better team doesn't always win. A lot of factors at play. Tonight, my Kentucky Wildcats start in the SEC tournament. So in honor of that, let's start round 2 of our top Disney movies of all time. Just if you're jumping in, if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, listen to episode 41, which is where we start this, and there's literally 64. I'll show you right. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the 64 teams. We use the NCAA bracket. It's not teams, they're movies. And we went to Box Office Mojo, and we pulled the top grossing movies of all time adjusted for inflation. To seed these things, use the S-curve, and here we are. We've got this. We went 64. There were 32 matchups that we picked. Best of 3. So if you got 2 votes, you move on. And now we're in the round of 32, the second round. And if you guys are ready, we'll start here in the East region with the top overall seed of the whole tournament, the original 1977 Star Wars versus Swiss Family Robinson.
Cinderella.
If you didn't know what we were doing, you do right now. Like this matchup sums up what's happening here. Star Wars versus Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Gosh.
Well, and if you didn't hear before, in our last round, Star Wars defeated Inside Out, and Swiss Family Robinson in an upset beat Rise of Skywalker. So here we are with Swiss Family facing another Star Wars franchise movie.
Yeah. Swiss Family Robinson definitely got all of our nostalgic vote. It seemed like we all had a good memory of watching that movie, and it's such a high quality movie for its time. But my vote's got to go for the original Star Wars, just because, again, it's cinematic. It's as close to perfection as you can get from me. So my vote's Star Wars.
I give a big bonus to Swiss Family Robinson for making the list. I mean, how amazing that it's still on their all-time biggest selling movies of all time from 1960, that many people saw this movie, and that would have been in theaters. I mean, I don't know if that, it's just amazing. But, and this was the only old classic Disney live action movie that made the list besides Mary Poppins. Everything else that was in the top was animated or was Marvel, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. So the only old Disney live action movie to make the list. But I guess, yes, I'm going to have to give it to Star Wars.
And I'm unanimous with you guys, 3-0. Star Wars is too big not to move on. Although Swiss Family Robinson is a great story, and they got to win. I mean, they won. It got a tournament win. Cinderella underdog, making it happen. I love Swiss Family Robinson, but man, Star Wars is just too big. Yep. It moves on to the Sweet 16. All right, I'm writing down notes here. 3-0. All right, next matchup, we'll go down to the 2 seed, which did pull off the win. It was another Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi. It's funny that they're in the same bracket, and it beat Armageddon in the first round with Bruce Willis, and it moved on, and it now faces Pirates of the Caribbean, The Black Pearl, which defeated Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One. So all the Star Wars movies are represented here, and those and that one lost. So we got Pirates of the Caribbean, which is the first Pirates movie, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yes.
All right. And against Star Wars Return of the Jedi, which is episode 6, if you're keeping score at home. That's the one where the the final of the first trilogy from I believe that came out in 1986, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, this is a tough one for me. Black Pearl is actually my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I mean, favorite, and also just critically, I think a lot of people would agree it's the best. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm going to vote Return of the Jedi because it is my favorite Star Wars movie for nostalgic reasons. Empire's probably a little bit better in terms of the story and the acting, but I'm voting Return of the Jedi. It's set up. I mean, it's the basis for Boba Fett, basis for the Mandalorian, kind of sets up all those things, and so I'm going to pick that. Although I do think this is the best of the Pirates movies. So if you want Johnny Depp and the Pirates movies to be represented in the tournament more, I get why you would vote that. It's not a slam dunk for me, but it's just my preference. I'm picking Return of the Jedi. So 1 vote, Return of the Jedi.
It is my favorite Pirates movie, and it brought in a whole breath of fresh air for the whole Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. But I think that Pirates probably can't make it all the way to the final anyway. So I'm going to go with Return of the Jedi.
Ooh, okay.
All right. Well, there you go.
So it's all right, but you got to vote for the record there.
Well, for the record, I'll do Pirates just because it's got a ride at the parks. I love the ride, and I really do. It's my favorite movie, so I'll give it a vote.
All right, awesome. And if you wanted to, you could say, Pirates is a Disney movie. Like Disney created it. It's always been a Disney property where you might give it points for that. Where Return of the Jedi kind of like was grandfathered in. Was bought and brought.
Okay, I'm gonna change my. I think I'm gonna stick with it. Actually, what I think is so great about Pirates are just the characters and the feeling. I don't know that the movie's great. Like the franchise is great, the whole idea and the sets and the costumes and the characters, all that's great. But I'm not sure about whether the movie's the greatest movie.
All right, 2 seed moves on. Next matchup is the 3 seed. This was an upset in the first round. We got Spider-Man: Far From Home, which upset the 3 seed, the Phantom Menace, and it is going up against Monsters Inc., which upset Finding Nemo in the first round. So Spider-Man: Far From Home versus Monsters Inc. This is a tough one. But what do you got?
Gosh.
Again,
let's start with David.
I don't think I'm ready. I didn't expect that, Perry.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I honestly, gosh. I mean, I'm thinking pros and cons in my head of both sides. I mean,
okay, I'll kick us off then while y'all are thinking and can't decide. If it was Spider-Man: No Way Home, which is not on the tournament because it didn't qualify for having the budget yet, I would pick it. But since it's Far From Home, which I like and is great, I'm picking Monsters, Inc. I'm going to give Monsters, Inc. I think it's so creative and so well done. The voice acting with Billy Crystal and is it John Goodman or
yeah,
is that who it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sully and just the whole thing is just fantastic. I love Monsters, Inc. Incredible Pixar movie. I'm picking Monsters, Inc.
I'm Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, I was actually going to say Monsters, Inc. too. That was my same thought process of if it was No Way Home, it would automatically get my vote. So if it's not even my favorite Spider-Man, I'd probably need to give it to Monsters, Inc. just because it is so creative.
Well, I did not see that coming as a unanimous, but it moves on. Monsters, Inc., the 11 seed, is in the Sweet 16. Awesome. All right, next one, final one in the East. We have Sleeping Beauty versus Marvel Civil War. Classic Disney animation versus new Marvel, big, epic introduction of new characters so we get the Tom Holland Spider-Man, we get Black Panther introduced, we get the division that sets up Infinity War. What do you guys say? This is a tough comparison. What do you guys say?
Yeah,
for this
is tough.
This is one that
Sleeping Beauty has her own castle.
Yeah, I know. That's the tough thing is like Sleeping Beauty. Yes, she's got a lot of influence at the parks. Love it. I actually enjoyed watching it as a young, brother with my sisters. I enjoyed watching it. But then also Civil War has always been one of my favorites. I've always talked about Captain America. I love his story. I love Iron Man, and this is just like they're the stars. This is their movie. So I think I'm going to give my vote to Civil War.
Ooh, okay.
Am I next?
I mean,
I'm going to
vote.
I'm going to go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, no, you go first. I think
I'm going to make it interesting, and I'm going to go with Sleeping Beauty for.
That's what I thought
for the because it is just a masterpiece, and it's a different time. I'm not sure that I'm going out of the Marvel movies. What is a masterpiece, one of a kind, can't be done again. So I'm not. But again, I know what Sleeping Beauty is going to go up against in the animated side of these movies that are left, and I know it won't make it all the way, but I don't think Civil War will win it all. So I don't know that it really matters.
a valiant effort by Sleeping Beauty, but I'm going to vote Civil War through. And I'm really excited about that Sweet 16 matchup between Civil War and Star Wars. So Civil War moves on 2-1 on a split decision. So that gets us to the Sweet 16 in the East. Let's move down to the South, where we move to the number 1 seed Snow White and the Seven Dwarves versus Lady and the Tramp. Actually, this is probably of all the movies we've had that might be the fairest comparison, the two most alike, of any of them yet. And so we know we're going to have representation of a Disney cartoon, Disney animated movie moving on to the Sweet 16. Which of those do you like better and thinks is of course the number 1 seed Snow White's a big favorite. I'd say is a big favorite. So
Snow White was the highest grossing, adjusted for inflation, the highest grossing Disney film, animated film on the list.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably have to give it to Snow White for sure, because when I think about my favorite things about Lady and the Tramp, it's like, well, this is iconic. It's got iconic scenes, and for most of those categories, Snow White has the same thing and then some. So I'd probably give it to I'd definitely give it to Snow White.
I'm Snow White as well.
Yeah. Hey, did you guys know that when Snow White came out, they gave Disney a special Oscar that was an Oscar with 7 little Oscars beside it. It's the only one like it. And I heard a story this week that said when after he never put a lot of that stuff out. Like there were some things in the office, but they found that Oscar in like boxes years after he had passed away. Of course, it's in one of the I can't remember now if it's at the Walt Disney Family Museum or if it's at one of the parks in one of those museums. But just amazing, it was tucked away in a box, packed away, wrapped
cool.
up in tissue paper.
That's super cool. So are you voting Snow White, David?
Yeah, I'll go with Snow White on this one.
All right, that is a unanimous. All right, next one. We have the 2 seed Avengers Endgame versus Frozen 2.
Tough one here.
This one's not tough for me at all.
Exactly.
Frozen 2 is okay. It's good. It made it to the second round, but again, not the better of the Frozen movies. Number 1, number 2, Endgame may be the greatest superhero movie ever made. Depending on if you want, the Infinity War that sets it up or Endgame how it ends. I'm going Endgame.
Yeah, 100% Endgame without a question.
I'm going to go with Endgame.
I still don't think it's hard to overstate how incredible they wrap that story up with Infinity War, sets it up. The money they made making it 2 parts using the kind of the Lord of the Rings sort of model. It's fantastic. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's a unanimous moving on, easy one. The next one is Bambi and The Lion King.
That's pretty...
Yeah, 2 more Disney animated movies. One's going home, one's moving on.
Yeah. That's pretty similar to in my opinion, to that Snow White versus Lady and the Tramp kind of thing, where I'm looking at the different categories of just scenes and liking it. So, I mean, I'm going to have to go with The Lion King for this one.
All right, David.
Interesting matchup because these are 2 of 4 Disney animated movies that don't contain humans. You never see man. Man's in the forest, but you never see him. Lion King has no humans. The other 2 are Robin Hood, the animated Robin Hood, and Zootopia. I know that the better movie is The Lion King, but I'll give it to Bambi because I know you're going to vote Lion King.
Whoa!
It needed a just a vote, a little little nudge.
No,
a little love.
I would pick Lion King. Like Lion King is the better movie, but again, Bambi. You watch those first few opening scenes in the forest and how it's drawn, the characters, the camera work, the lighting. It's, again, a masterpiece. You couldn't do it again. You couldn't make it. They could not make it. It would be $1 billion to make that movie. So it would never happen again. Lion King they could remake probably, but it won't happen either because there's no 2D animation. So I'm going to go Lion King.
I'm also Lion King. Unanimous. Moving on. We talked David into it, JD.
Some of the old animators often said that they thought Walt's all-time favorite was Bambi.
Why?
Really?
Because it broke formulas. The mother died. It was a true just against the odds elements. It was just different. They thought that because it was so different. He so wanted to do things differently. He didn't ever want to recreate what he had done before. So he was always looking like, what else can I do? What else? And so it broke, the mold. But I don't know that he ever said it, but that I've definitely heard some of the old timers in interviews quote that.
Well, you got to start leading with these facts, like Bambi was one of Walt Disney's favorite, because that might get
sway the jury. All right, next one is Infinity War versus Peter Pan. Again, you hate for the iconic Peter Pan to get knocked out here, and it may not. I don't know what you guys are going to say, but just like Endgame, it looks like they're on a collision course. But Infinity War, if Endgame's 1, Infinity War's 2, or if Infinity War's 1, Endgame is 2 in my book on superhero movies. So for that, I'm Infinity War, warring it up.
Okay, I'm going to go with Peter Pan because Peter Pan it's always been one of my favorites. I love the movie. It's a great movie. It's a classic. When I think about Disney classic, it's Peter Pan. Parks, love the ride. People love the ride. And yeah, I love Infinity War. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Marvel and I love Infinity War, but Endgame's always been my number 1 and Infinity War's been my number 2. And for like classic Disney, if you told me right now, okay, you've got to give up one, you can never watch one ever again, I would hate to have to give up Peter Pan. So I'll give it to Peter Pan.
All right, so
it's an
don't
upset.
Don't forget the Bambi scene. Don't forget the Bambi scene where he's looking at Spider-Man, doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? And Spider-Man just evaporates in front of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. I mean, how emotional and gush.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell it here.
Thanks for reminding me of that. I'm going with Peter Pan.
The 13th scene. Moving on.
That was my least favorite part of that movie. Like, I didn't want to see. I told you last time I didn't watch this because I couldn't go right when it opened, and then I knew when I saw John David's face, like this is bad. And I waited I was like I knew somebody died or something happened, and I was like I had no idea it was that many people, but I was like I'm waiting until the next one because I knew it was a 2-parter, and it's like I don't want that feeling of I've got to wait a whole year and a half or something to find out what happened. I waited. I was just like, I'll stop right here. I saw Infinity War like the day before I went and saw Endgame.
I don't know if I've ever been, though, to a movie where, you're their opening night and it's sold out, it's packed. And at the end, everyone walks out solemnly. Like, it was so emotional. Like, and it just did what it was supposed to do. Like,
right.
Very few movies can.
Yeah.
People wiping away tears.
That's the tough thing about.
It's amazing.
The tough thing about movies are like what you go to the movie for. How, in different seasons of my life, that would have been it. Like, I would probably still say Avengers might be my favorite Marvel because it just feels like you go through that roller coaster, but you end up. And it just feels good when you go out, and you're not heavy. You're not going, oh no.
Yeah, but as far as going to the movies and seeing Marvel movies, nothing is better than those crazy scenes in like Endgame, where Captain America gets Thor's hammer and everyone like cheers, and you've got that jam-packed theater,
right.
like Spider-Man, No Way Home. I mean, when I don't want to spoil anything if no one's seen it, but when the other Spider-Man came, I mean, just so cool. So cool.
Right. Well, again, I know
cool.
I know that in the matchup, it's going to go up against Endgame, and I would give it to Endgame. So in this one, I'm going to let Peter Pan advance because
that's an upset. We got a Cinderella team in the Sweet 16. Peter Pan. Originally, that was a 13 seed, just bounced into the Sweet 16. Awesome, and it sets up some good matchups for the third round.
I hope.
All right,
again for the Peter Pan has some problematic things that need to be corrected, but I really do hope when the Peter Pan and Wendy comes out, after seeing the Pinocchio clip, I was like, man, I hope they go that way with Peter Pan, and we get the same characters with a tweak, so we can Anyway, moving on.
All right, moving on to the West region. We're in the round 2 now. This first matchup was a big upset, a 16-1 here. We have the Jungle Book live action movie, which upset The Force Awakens. Star Wars Force bounced the Star Wars out, moved on. It is facing Attack of the Clones, which upset Finding Dory. So we've got Attack of the Clones versus the Jungle Book live action. Both of those were split decisions, as both of those were controversial. And here we are. They're up against each other.
Here we go. I think I'm going to have to keep the ball rolling with the live-action Jungle Book.
Ooh,
again, it's my favorite live-action. Attack of the Clones, definitely not my favorite Star Wars or even on that top couple of lists. And when I look at – I gave Jungle Book over The Force Awakens. I would definitely – put in the same category, Force Awakens and Attack of the Clones, so I'm going to give it to Jungle Book.
All right.
I'm going Jungle Book as well.
Okay, Jungle Book moving on. Another Star Wars bounced.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this before, but I went back and watched that a while back when we were doing something else about Disney live-action movies. I went back and watched that one, and I was actually surprised, it went up a notch. That's really good. The whole way they work Mowgli and his tools and how he knows how to do all these things that none of that was in the original, but man, that was really good conceptual writing and good work.
Well, I'm going to make it unanimous. I'll also say the Jungle Book live action, which the 16 seed is now in the Sweet 16. Pretty amazing. 2 upsets there. I am writing this in. And the next one is, this will be a fun one. We got Alladin versus Iron Man.
Oh, gosh. You guys go first on this one. Whoa. That's a toughie.
Iron Man was fantastic. I mean, it was really good. It kind of kicked the first of the individual movies. I didn't really think it would be, just sort of kind of Avengers, yeah, but roll Iron Man. Do we really need this? But Robert Downey Jr. just kind of launched the franchise, in my opinion. And I love it. But Aladdin is my all-time favorite Disney animated movie. I'm picking Aladdin. I think it's an epic soundtrack, as we know, other than we don't talk about Bruno, the only other number 1 song in the history of Disney music, A Whole New World. Incredible soundtrack. You have Robin Williams, who is the voice of the genie. Iconic. No one ever has come close to touching that performance, in my opinion. Will Smith was smart to go a different direction in the live action, but I'm going with Aladdin for those reasons.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Aladdin's got the cake for this one. Again, the soundtrack is just unbelievable. Great soundtrack. Whole New World is definitely one of the most iconic songs that even non-Disney fans might be able to sing the words to. So it's very enjoyable and very fun to watch.
I don't think David wanted to vote, but he bounced out of here for a second. But it's moving on regardless. I'm going to write it in.
Yeah. But
we'll get to his when he gets back here. We'll get his take on that.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do it by ourselves.
I guess we could just kind of. What is the next matchup?
The next matchup is Frozen versus Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
How about that?
That's monster of both of their decades.
Two monsters, yeah. I really want David's take on this.
Yeah,
but I know what I'm voting for. I know what I'm going to vote for.
Really? Just straight off?
Easy. This is easy for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain too.
Power glitch.
Uh-oh. Wonder if that's a Wi-Fi thing. Interesting.
Give him a second.
Yeah.
I'll edit it out. Hey, what's up?
Sorry, no idea what happened. I thought my computer died, and I've got 20%. It just turned off.
Yeah, sometimes the Macs will do that. Like the gauge will lie to you.
Yeah, it
Mine
just
does that
left.
sometimes.
Sorry, I didn't see that coming.
Hey, no problem. So,
can we edit in?
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll figure it out.
Are we still? Oh, we're still on. Okay.
Aladdin has Aladdin's already moving on, but David, do you want to give us your take on the Aladdin versus Iron Man matchup?
Yeah, sorry, I lost you guys for a second. Little technical difficulty. I'm going to say, Aladdin.
All right, Aladdin, unanimous. Moving forward, the next matchup is exciting. Frozen versus Beauty and the Beast.
Man, that's a matchup.
It's easy for me. It is an easy one for me.
This is a tough one. Next, if we ever do this again, we'll get McKay and some others in here to give us a different perspective.
Well, we know McKay is a Beauty and the Beast.
Yes,
like it's her favorite, right?
Yeah, McKay would be given Beauty and the Beast. They would be in the Final Four championship all the way.
Yeah, I'm actually Team Beauty and the Beast. I'm voting Beauty and the Beast. I mean, to me, it's not even close. I don't know why, and I get Frozen, and the song was huge, and it's beautiful, and it's obviously was a cultural phenomenon, but it just doesn't resonate with me. And again, I'm a dude who's older. It wasn't targeted to me, but as someone who watches Disney movies and they all grab me in some way, I just found Beauty and the Beast to be more iconic and more breathtaking and kind of more something that will last, I guess we should say.
Well, it's had its own remake already. We'll see if they ever do a live-action Frozen. I've never heard of that. They've never talked about doing live-action.
Unless you count the Ice Capades, the Disney on Ice.
True. They have done them at the park. They've done live things at the park. I'm going with Beauty and the Beast. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of that battle between the 90s and the 2010s, and it was fun getting to watch Frozen because it was one of the first purely Disney animation. It wasn't really Pixar. We went to Toy Story and things like that, but it was like a shocking, okay, the whole world loves this, and I'm kind of seeing it as it's, people are singing the songs. So it was definitely fun. I can actually see it in 2013. I think it was Thanksgiving Day. We went as a family, and it was a pretty full theater. So fun memory, but Beauty and the Beast all the way.
All right, Beauty and the Beast moves on unanimous. It's not even really close. Moving to the Sweet 16.
If you've never seen the making of the Beauty and the Beast, it's really interesting. It wasn't even meant to be a musical. It had a much darker European originally. I mean, and they had done a lot of artwork and story development before it. Before they brought Ashman and Menken in from Beauty and from Little Mermaid and just kind of turned the thing around. Really interesting. What it could have been was completely different.
Is that on Disney Plus? The making of?
I don't know. A lot of
maybe just
I don't know a lot of the bonus features if they show up. It would have been on the Blu-rays and the DVDs, little things you could see. Probably find it on YouTube.
We'll have to check that out. The next matchup in the West region is Star Wars: The Last Jedi versus the Avengers. The Last Jedi, again, is the middle of the new trilogy of Star Wars. This is the I'm trying to think of the director, Ryan. What's his name?
Not sure.
What is that dude's name?
Reynolds?
No.
Only Ryan that matters.
Yeah, that would have been a different movie. The
Yeah, that
Star
would have
Wars
been much
directed
different.
by Ryan Reynolds.
Let's see here. I'm going to look it up while you guys debate this.
Yeah.
This is easier for me.
Yeah, me too.
I'd go Avengers all the way. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And iconic to me. It just feels like one of those where we had all these individual. I don't have the order of how they were made in my head, but when they all came together for the first time, that was just amazing.
It was Ryan Johnson was the director of the Last Jedi.
That's right.
And in my opinion, it's the worst of all of the Star Wars movies ever made.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, you screwed it up, and you're the reason the new trilogy didn't work, Ryan Johnson, if you're listening. But all that aside, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. You guys brought it. You guys had it win over Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So it had a nice little run, but it's my Duke. In this bracket right here.
You just hate it?
I'm glad to see them gone. Unanimous. Avengers move on.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure. Yeah, I would agree.
I kind of got a little irritated once I remembered who was the director. So so many holes that the Rise of Skywalker could have been so good, but yet it had to clean up that dude's mess. Dang, such a wasted opportunity.
I think that's kind of the theme of the whole new trilogy, though, was it could have been so good, but dang it.
Well, another Star Wars property out. So moving on to the Midwest region, we have a couple of interesting matchups here. Number 1 seed, 101 Dalmatians against the 9 seed, Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah. So, of course, with all the Marvel content that's on this bracket, it's just all really good movies. People got excited about it. I've got to say, Age of Ultron is probably, even though I love it so much. It's probably on the lower half of my Marvel, especially the core Avengers movies. And when you look at 101 Dalmatians, really enjoyed watching it. Cruella de Vil is like one of the most iconic, good song, funny, horse and Jasper. Yeah, just such creative villains, and you really do pull for all the dogs, and I loved watching it growing up. So my vote's going to be for 101 Dalmatians.
Okay, well, not really an upset because a 1 seed, but
Is it really? Wow.
yeah.
Do you want to go next, or do you want me to?
Now, I'm actually going to vote for 101 Dalmatians also. And I agree. I agree with you. Like Age of Ultron, I think after the fact, when they were all said and done, it was more meaningful to the plot line than you originally thought. But I agree with you. It's not the one I'd run back to, right away. It's lower on the list of priorities for Marvel movies for me. I mean, I love it. But again, I know David's told the story of 101 Dalmatians, being such a unique thing. Animation-wise, I think you're probably going to tell that again here. You should. I hope so. But it did. It does something interesting. It's had several remakes and reiterations as well. Cruella de Vil is like an iconic bad guy. I'm going to stick with the 1 seed and go with 101 Dalmatians. David, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going with Dalmatians. It's, it broke kind of the mold of they did this really an action movie. It's really not you've got the Cruella de Vil song, which they creatively work in because Roger's a songwriter. But until the end, there's like one more little song. But the whole thing it's really just first time they didn't follow a musical approach with one of their stories that I can think of. So I'm gonna that, and then of course, if you didn't know this, it was also it was the first one that they used a Xerox process where they didn't have to retrace that. Animators used to draw the pencil drawing, then somebody else would ink it over a cell, then somebody else would paint it. And it's the first time they start Xeroxing the artist's drawings right onto the cell. Then all they have to do is paint. So it was a huge milestone, and again, one of those things that kept them in business, and was a huge. I mean, this was one of the top. Wasn't this second after?
This is
Snow
a 1
White?
seed. So you had of the highest grossing movies of all time. You take out the Star Wars movie. This is the second one.
It's still higher grossing over some of the huge movies from the '90s. So it's a powerhouse.
All right, moving on. Completely unanimous on that one. On the bottom side of that bracket is Toy Story 3 versus Empire Strikes Back. I think the Toy Story franchise got kind of a bad draw in the tournament.
It had the worst. I did say that was my other regret. That when I think Pixar, I have movies that I think are great, like Inside Out is great, and Ratatouille is one of my favorites, and they just all have. They're all Up is amazing, but Toy Story is just my favorite. Like as a whole, it's like the one. It's Pixar to me. If there were no other movies, I would want to have the Toy Story movies, and so it hurts that they're not.
Yeah,
they keep getting put up against blockbusters.
Yeah,
no.
I'm trying to see what Toy Story 2 was knocked out by Infinity War, which didn't make it past Peter Pan, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the first Toy Story. Let's see here. Where's that at? In the first round. Toy Story 4 got beat by Pinocchio. Another, Toy Story 1 was beat by the Avengers, who just moved on to the Sweet 16. So you're right. They just had a bad draw. Maybe better luck next year to Toy Story. But we got it. Toy Story 3 is still fighting for their lives. I'm not writing them off yet. So, David, who you voting for? It's Empire Strikes Back, though. The Oscar-nominated Empire Strikes Back.
See, that's just. I mean, if there are three in the Star Wars canon, the New Hope, Empire, Return. I mean, those. I mean, they're just so big, and Toy Story 3 is, again, I mentioned this last time, one of the most powerful of the three, because the first two are so fun related, and I mean, it's just different. But this one, man, the scene in the incinerator and the scene at the end, man, those are powerful. But Empire Strikes Back, I'm just going to have to go with that, which hurts.
Wow.
I would never want to not see Toy Story 3 again, but Empire Strikes Back, man,
what won 4 Oscars.
I think you guys would do the same.
Dustin,
I'm Empire. I'm definitely
really?
Empire Strikes Back. It is the most critically acclaimed of all the Star Wars movies. I'm nostalgic for Return of the Jedi, but I recognize that Empire is a better movie, better acting. Of all of them, it's kind of where George Lucas has shined the brightest as a director. Did he direct that? Did he direct that one?
That's right. He did all the original trilogy, right? Pretty sure.
I think so. Let me make sure. But I'm voting Empire. No, he did not.
Really?
Irvin Kershner.
What?
Was the director. Yes. And
so who did he just do A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, or what? Who had directed those?
So let's see here.
Because that's interesting. Because wow, this is actually raising a lot of questions.
George Lucas directed the original Star Wars.
Okay.
We have.
Because I thought he literally created it and
Yeah, he was a creator, but that's interesting that in Return of the Jedi I said 86. It was actually 83, and I want to say it looks like Richard Marquand directed Return of the Jedi. So George Lucas only directed the original Star Wars.
Wow, how about that? That's some trivia. I would have never guessed that. I mean, but what about the prequels? Can you look at the prequels real quick? Because now I'm really interested. Because I know he did have a lot of. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's all of what
I'll
thought.
bet he directed all of the prequels because the acting is bad. Yeah, George Lucas did Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
He did them all.
Okay. So maybe that's why I just thought he did them all.
Yeah, so he did all of the prequels.
Gotcha.
He probably should have let someone else help. But we saw with Ryan Johnson, doesn't always work out.
I think I'm gonna switch here. I know Empire Strikes Back is the bigger, but I'll give Toy Story 3 a vote just so it doesn't go.
So keep it close.
I get that.
You can't go through that Toy Story spiel and not, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be a huge upset. But John David, what about you?
Yeah, so the thing is, and I was really open-minded on this one, if y'all both said Toy Story 3, I wasn't going to be like, what? But you've got to give it to Empire.
Oh, I thought you had already said Empire.
No, I mean, but I didn't yet. But I'm going to say Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
Just because again, I can visually see myself looking at the TV. I was like 10 years old or whatever, and seeing Han Solo get frozen, and I was like, is he dead? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going to happen? And then, of course, the next one comes. But just a really good movie.
Empire moving on in a closer than expected outcome. So the next one is Pinocchio versus Mary Poppins.
This is like the worst, maybe. Like, ow.
Yeah, both of these guys. Sometimes in the NCAA bracket, they pair these teams. And you're like, these teams should not be meeting this early in the tournament. But here we are with these two teams, Pinocchio versus Mary Poppins.
I'll plead the case for Mary Poppins real quick, and then Dustin can plead the case for Pinocchio, and then Dad can decide. I'll start with Mary Poppins.
We're gonna end up with something like Mary Poppins up against something like Iron Man. It's like,
It's true.
Who would win in this battle?
I don't know. We'll see. But for Mary Poppins just has to survive this one. You've got Julie Andrews. I can't think of another woman on the planet in the history of time that could play Mary Poppins better than Julie Andrews, singing-wise and acting-wise. Then you have Dick Van Dyke, who, again, you look at who he is and his dancing and singing ability. Can't think of anybody better to play a chimney sweep and just his character than Dick Van Dyke. Some of the most iconic songs, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or something like that, something around there.
I say it backwards.
I mean, just so good. Half live action or half animated. Love it, really enjoy it. Love listening to the soundtrack. So Mary Poppins is getting my vote for this one.
All right. Well, I'm voting for Pinocchio, and that's a great case. To me, Pinocchio 1940, with maybe the most recognizable soundtrack. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is the soundtrack for Mary Poppins is also iconic, no doubt. But When You Wish Upon a Star, the Jiminy Cricket theme, the Give a Little Whistle, Hi Diddly Dee, An Actor's Life for Me, like. To me, like, every song is just, like, amazing. And so, and again, I've told you guys, it is dark, but it's such a universal story of bravery and just heading down the wrong path and second chances and grace that I'm going with Pinocchio. And we'll let David decide here who moves on in this epic battle of Disney classics.
So good. Both are so good.
I was just thinking about the film footage of like the Hollywood premiere and Walt there with Julie Andrews and it won Academy Awards. It's 1964, a year and a half or maybe 2 years before Walt Disney passes away. Right in the middle of doing the World's Fair in 1964 with all these iconic attractions that are going to come to the park, building Pirates of the Caribbean, all that's going on at the same time, and he puts out this movie that wins all these accounts. It's like, I don't even know how somebody creates one of those things, but all of those things in like a 3-year span. So as much as I love Pinocchio, and I think animation wise, it's the top pinnacle of the artistic achievement in many ways. I'm going to let Mary Poppins on its originality go through on this one, because it's
Mary
just
Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, it's out
Moving
of
on.
It's, nothing would like it before, and everything else has just been imitating it since. But I will give Mary Poppins Returns. I think Emily Blunt is incredible.
Yeah, she did a great job
in the new film. It's a different Mary. It's not the same character. But if you ever read a book or heard a book when you were little of Mary Poppins, Emily's character is more true to the book. She's a little more. She's not as sweet as Walt's version, but I love Julie Andrews' Mary Poppins. So,
all right,
we're gonna go with that.
Moving on, I can hear her trash talking Geppetto right now. You stupid wooden little boy, never should have been made alive. And there she is moving on. All right, final matchup of the second round. Last spot in the Sweet 16 will either be taken by Iron Man 3 or The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. David, why don't you go first on this one?
Well, I know The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is not the bigger movie, but that was such a great movie to me. It was the movie I had been waiting for since I was 9. My wife got me it was like I think it came out on my birthday.
Yeah.
She got us tickets to a matinee. It was like the first showing, and we were like the only people in there. And when I don't know, it was like, how when you have a book that you read books that were so good to you, and then you see it come on screen, probably to a generation of like Harry Potter, which I love as well. But you kind of can get this, but those opening scenes weren't from the book, but the whole conflict, the thing going between Peter and Edmund right from the beginning, and the fact that they're dealing with the war and their dad's off in the war somewhere, just that whole, it was like, it just took my breath away. Those first few minutes, I just being blown away by something so simple. And so, yeah, I mean, Iron Man. I love Iron Man. I think it's tough because Iron Man. It's in a lot of ways my favorite character in Marvel, but I'm going to have to go with Lion on this one.
All right, John David.
I don't know. I'm still Dustin. You might have to go next.
Well, I'm also picking Narnia.
Okay.
Because Iron Man 3 is. I would honestly, I'd have to do some research because I don't right off recall what it was about or what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes me a second to wait a second. Which one? There's so much Marvel content. If it doesn't immediately at this point in the tournament, if it doesn't immediately grab me, and again, I love the book too. Not quite as nostalgic as David, but I read that as a kid. One of the first chapter books I read, if I remember correctly. And there was, all sorts of Hallmark type versions of it that were kind of low budget, when I was a kid. And this was PBS. The first one. Yeah, PBS, exactly.
PBS
this was incredible.
They were puppets.
Yeah. And it was still pretty amazing. It's still exceeded expectations. So I'm picking Narnia.
Love it. All right. I'm happy you guys did that because I agree. I mean, I remember Iron Man 3 and I know the theme of it. But when you think about the major cinematic universe, it doesn't really add a lot. And I would much rather watch the first Iron Man than the third. And like you guys said, I also read the book, loved the book, and just love the story and everything it stands for of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So it would have my vote too.
There's several things I like in Iron Man 3, but this is not knocking it, but the one thing that the villain always reminded me of Syndrome from Incredibles. He kind of Tony Stark ticks him off, and so he's like, "Well, I'll build bigger tech and it's like that kind of. It just kind of feels like that. Like I'm out for revenge because you didn't see my my abilities, and so.
Well, that sets the Sweet 16. You guys
It's
ready?
set.
You up for one more round?
We doing it?
I can
can
do
do
it.
it.
Let's do one more round here, and then we'll stop.
Okay, let's
and
do it.
then we'll finish it up in the next episode.
Let's
we'll
do it.
Crown the champion in the next episode. We got 3. All right, so
Oh man, this is going to be so tough.
this is getting harder as we go.
Dang.
But now we're in the Sweet 16. This is the 16 best Disney movies of all time by our, both box office and our opinions.
Yeah.
So it's
Hercules.
definitely definitive.
Hercules
and the winner
Hercules
is
would
Lion
be-
the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's the craziest thing. Like all of my favorites aren't on this list,
right.
and
Totally.
And it's so
Yeah.
hard. It's so hard choosing. So don't get mad if your favorite's not in here. This is, it comes down to like in some cases what our favorite is over even what we know is better.
Well, there's no
I mean,
No
it's-
Way
it's-
Home. There's no Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. There's no Tron. I mean, my goodness. How come? Yeah, we'll have to do another one, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But anyhow, this is what we got. These are the rules that everybody played by, and these teams are the lucky ones that have advanced to the Sweet 16. And it is our duty, gentlemen, to see this through to the end. So, here we go.
Let's do it.
Oh,
Star
man.
Wars versus Civil War. Marvel. Now this is an epic battle right here.
Dang.
Let me ask you this: if there was a war, like a literal war, and the firepower ensues, would the rebels win? Would the Empire win, or would Thanos? Would the bad guys? Let's just say the Avengers win. Let's leave it there.
Oh, the Avengers.
Well, we know the rebels beat. We know the rebels ultimately win out in the end. So let's get rid of the Empire and Darth Vader because we know how that ends. But okay, the rebels in Star Wars are the Avengers.
Like fighting? Like they're all fighting right now?
So there's a war between the two. Yeah,
The Avengers.
Who
I
ends
think
up-
the Avengers, right? Surely.
I don't know.
Against
Oh.
like spaceships, or are we talking lightsabers?
Well, you got Jedi. That's what I'm saying.
That's
Is the
the
rebels
thing.
have Leia and Luke, and they have mind. They control their minds, and they're just they're in tune with the Force, and
They would be like, they would just tell Hulk, "You don't want to be angry."
exactly.
Unless unless now if you do like a whole Jedi council, I think they would put up a better fight. But it's like, so you're basically saying Luke's got to do some crazy stuff and crush Iron Man, and because I'm thinking like Thor. I mean Thor. How would they go against Thor?
That's a good question.
I mean, he's a beast.
How did? I mean, but you say that, and somehow Thanos,
That's true.
almost completely.
That's true. Hey,
Beat him, too.
Loki almost beat him, and all he did was talked really smoothly and did some crazy stuff.
That brings up if you want to talk about holes in the Marvel movies, it's that these OP characters, including Captain Marvel, who has maybe more power than anyone, had such trouble defeating Thanos. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
I love them, but that is sort of if you have to suspend belief just a little bit.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I really think that like Captain Marvel needs a kryptonite. Is there one there? I mean, like to me, that would make the story better. Like she needs something that, and that's not because of. I think all heroes do. Everybody needs something that they're fighting to overcome, and she's so powerful. Like it's like I don't see what the conflict here is. She doesn't even have a tortured. I mean, maybe she does. I don't know the comic books well, but like even Bruce Wayne has this tortured, thing he's working through, and it just seemed like, different kind of character.
It does seem like with powers that probably the Avengers could defeat. I don't know, man. Luke and Grogu and Yoda
Hey, the
and
Mandalorian.
Obi-Wan. The man. Well, he's
If he came in-
he's just. I don't know if he counts as a rebel.
yeah,
but
well,
maybe. But they'd all probably band together in this giant epic battle of this crossover. But either way, we got to pick the movie. So which movie, Star Wars or Civil War? Star Wars, the all-time highest-grossing movie ever, other than Gone with the Wind, but of Disney, it's the next one.
Dang, I think I would still have to go with Civil War for my vote, even though it is the OG Star Wars: A New Hope. If it was Empire Strikes Back or even Return of the Jedi, it honestly would be flipped. But because it is just the first one, and I just did rewatch it, and it felt like the slowest to me, and maybe it's because I already knew the backstory. But you're watching like the first hour or so, and it's just kind of Luke figuring it all out. I just want him to be the Jedi already, so I'd probably say Civil War.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. You're making me think here. Dustin, you're gonna have to go.
Man.
No, I'll go. I'm gonna go with my first gut was Star Wars.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with my first gut. But man, I love it's hard because there's part of me that leans a little more Marvel than I need to. We just talked about this last night. My wife and I were saying I want to go back and watch Star Wars with the prequels again and just work through all of that. Now that we got our Marvel caught up, I want to go back, and that could change my opinion. But part of me just feels like I got to go with Star Wars for the iconic place it has in history. It's like the Snow White of. I mean, this is the one that started it all. I mean,
no one had ever done anything like it. And I think that if you're asking me, I would watch Civil War again before I'd watch Star Wars. But I'm also going to pick Star Wars, knowing that I think there are still, as good as Civil War is, there are still in the tournament some better Marvel movies.
Yeah. So
I'm going Star Wars advances to the Elite Eight on a split decision. The next Sweet 16 matchup, it's a good one too. Return of the Jedi versus Monsters, Inc.
Oh, no.
So if Return of the Jedi wins, it sets up an Elite Eight matchup between all Star Wars Elite Eight.
It is funny, though, how we were talking about this bracket, and we don't have one Toy Story, but Monsters, Inc. prevailed and won out.
Luck
Isn't
of the
that
draw.
so funny?
That is the luck of the draw. Again, that's how it happens. A lot of times it's not necessarily
You got a bad matchup.
Even.
Monsters, Inc., Return of the Jedi. I'll go first because I'm sticking with my Return of the Jedi. I love Monsters, Inc. I do think of all the Pixar, it's one of my favorites. And so I'm gonna say Return of the Jedi. You guys are next.
I'll second that. I've got to go with Return of the Jedi, even though I do love Monsters, Inc., and I love to laugh at it, but it's hard for me to go against Return of the Jedi.
Wow, Star Wars versus Star Wars. David, were you going to make it unanimous? Or
I think I am because I can't see Monsters, Inc. advancing over even the animation that it's going to go up against. So I'm going to let Star Wars go through, and we'll see what you guys pick in the end is the best Star Wars.
All right. Well, moving to the South bracket, we have Snow White, another number one seed against the upstart Cinderella Peter Pan. Well, not Cinderella. It's weird you call him Cinderella, because Cinderella should be. Did it get bounced out in the first round, or was it on the list at all?
It got bumped out.
It went up against Beauty and the Beast or something.
You know what? We should have taken into account the fact that we would use the term Cinderella throughout just instead of underdog. It's that iconic that you say the Cinderella story of the tournament. And we should have thought about that. But Cinderella is not here, but Peter Pan is, which is the Cinderella story.
Cinderella lost to Alladin. That was what happened.
Okay, well, that needed to happen. But still, it's getting a shout-out as we talk about the underdog, Peter Pan, that is here against Snow White. Does the streak continue, or does Snow White advance? I'm gonna hold serve and say Snow White. And this is too, like, you go to Fantasyland and they're both represented still. So I'm gonna say Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I think it's just a little, I don't know, it's a little more iconic to me.
I gotta go with Peter Pan. I've just got to do it. I feel like I've got this whole fan base of Peter Pan fans that I've got to give my vote for, and I got to get Peter Pan as far as I can get him.
I don't know. Have we mentioned yet that the character Tinkerbell is like across the kind of like Jiminy Cricket? It's kind of like something Disney uses everywhere all the time, and it's kind of iconic that we don't think about. But that's some points towards Peter Pan right there.
Yeah.
Although Sleepy, Happy, Grumpy, Dopey, Sneezy, Bashful, Doc, there was commercials about that, So
Hey, and when Snow White came out, Dopey was so big that if you've ever seen Fantasia, the iconic Mickey Mouse Sorcerer's Apprentice, there were a lot of animators wanted Dopey to have that role, but Walt said no, it's Mickey. He was that big, like they were looking for a sequel for Dopey.
Interesting.
Man, this is another one I hate, but I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to go with Snow White.
What?
As I can't.
Boo.
I know it's
what?
It's like one that on Rotten Tomatoes is gonna have 100% rating from critics, and Peter Pan's going to have about an 85 or 90, I'm guessing.
Whatever. Let's go to the next
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Both are so iconic.
But if I was going to go watch one right now, I would watch Peter Pan.
Yeah, I know. It's a battle, but I agree. Snow White, I mean, it's just hard to beat Snow White.
Snow White's like picking Star Wars over Marvel.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm stuck here. Like, I know it's a master. I mean, again, I know it's a masterpiece. If you watch it, it's just perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
Although Walt, even after they finished it, there were things Walt wanted to change and fix. So, all right.
Next one is The Lion King versus Endgame. Marvel Endgame. Avengers Endgame. Excuse me.
Oh,
couldn't
Lord.
be more different. But I will start.
gosh.
The greatest superhero movie, in my opinion, I should say the top three. Two of those are Infinity War and Endgame. And so y'all have already knocked out Infinity War. I got to stick with Endgame for me. In Lion King too, like I'm another thing. As much as I admire it and understand its cultural place, and it was actually I think it made more money than Aladdin did. I liked it less than I liked Aladdin and Little Mermaid and that kind of era of movies.
When I've looked at different rankings, a lot of times when fans do rankings online, it always seems like Lion King is the number one all-time fan favorite. Like Beauty and the Beast will be up there too, but usually it's that 90s. It's like, but when if you brought a group of people from 5 years old to 85 years old and pulled them, you're probably going to hit the 90s as the median of what everybody likes. But
that's a good point.
But JD, what are you saying?
I want you to go first because I want you to go first. You got it. Do you know what you're going to say yet?
Well, man, I mean, I know Lion King is like, so it's not my favorite, but man, I know it's like animation. I mean, on that side of things, it's such a powerhouse. Like, even though it never got its attraction, it's been in parades and
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere at Animal Kingdom. It's had shows. It's got the whole big huge show at Animal Kingdom.
You got to pick. I'm going to make you do it. I want you to go next.
Okay, I'm just going to make it. I'm going to make it interesting and go with Lion King.
Okay.
Although I really Endgame I know it's the pinnacle, but it has so many things that make me not watch it over and over again. Because again, it's it's got so much heart. It's so sad too. You know.
Yeah. Again, yeah, it's like greatness versus greatness. I mean, both are just so good. Endgame, I would definitely agree, is my favorite superhero movie of all time. I can watch it over and over again, and yes, it's got a sad thing here and there, but I'm just like, every time I can just get those goosebumps of this is so good. And Lion King, again, soundtrack wise, every song is so iconic after iconic, and you go to the parks and it doesn't have a ride, but there's not going to be a show or parade or even, you know, a restaurant without something that references Lion King in some way. And I agree. That's the thing, is like, I agree, watching both for the first time, Lion King is very appealing, and that's why so many people put it as their number one on their Disney animated list. So it's definitely a battle. It's a battle, and I keep going back and forth. But honestly,
you want to pick.
Well, honestly, but always for me, I've kind of
want to pick Endgame, but feel like you should pick Lion King.
But almost the opposite, where it's like I've kind of always almost been skeptical of Lion King because so many people always give it's the credit, like, okay, this is like the top thing that Disney provides, and I'm like, I watch other Disney animated movies, and I'm like, well, I look at Aladdin, and I'm like, I feel like this story's better. It's got a more relatable love interest, and then songs just as good. And I can watch it over and over again because if you know Mufasa, and I could be talking about this way too much, but after you know Mufasa dies, I don't really want to watch that over and over again. It doesn't really have that awe that you get after you watch it the first time. So honestly,
I will say this:
yeah.
like, what happens every time somebody has a little baby? They hold them up like this, right? And or a dog or a puppy or a kitten. Everybody will hold this tiny little animal or baby out like this and mimic that opening scene too. So I thought that was interesting too. And that way it is like incredibly iconic. The Circle of Life is playing, and they hold up little Simba, and
yeah,
you know.
It's so iconic. But then also it's like I lived through Endgame, and I just remember that excitement of even people who weren't superhero fans. They were going to the theater and they were watching this because everybody was saying how amazing it was, and you were seeing Instagram posts of "Don't spoil Endgame" and stuff like that. So it's such a battle. And I honestly, just talking about it, I've gone back and forth, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Lion King, just because honestly,
wow,
I know honestly, and I was gonna say Endgame, but Dustin, when you said the whole iconic like holding up Simba. That like
I thought you. I gave Lion King its props because I thought you were going.
That's a buzzer beater, man.
But
it was close to the end in overtime.
Exactly, but I literally my whole head I was saying Endgame. It's got to be Endgame.
The upset of the tournament.
But it's like, this is Disney. I mean, like, yes, like it represents so many other things, but it's like, how do you give up Lion King? I don't know.
Wow. That's amazing.
I might regret
Lion
it.
King moving on in a split on a buzzer beater That's it. Incredible. All right.
Got to do it.
Let's see if we can finish out the other side real quick. That's huge.
That is huge.
And honestly, there's only one more Marvel representation left in the bracket, and it's right here. Jungle Book live action versus the Avengers. The original Avengers.
I'm going Avengers.
The Avengers. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Avengers too.
Now, let me ask you, be honest, is this sort of Marvel's got to be represented. We can't have all the Marvel movies out, or is it you legitimately think the Avengers is better than the live action Jungle Book?
Legitimately. I mean, it's just like again.
I think again they're different kind of movies, but Avengers is epic and Lion King is. I mean, Jungle Book is like, wow, that's really good family movie, but it's a different type of machine. You can't hardly compare it.
I've said this a few times. I didn't think they could pull off the Avengers, and it would be good. There's no way everybody's going to get enough screen time. Somebody's going to get left out. There's going to be holes, and it was incredible. It was just, and it set the stage for everything that came after, and set our expectations so high, and they just keep beating it. So I'm with you. Avengers unanimous. Moving on. Marvel still is represented. Gets into the Elite Eight. The next matchup is, oh man, Ultimate 90s right here. Beauty and the Beast versus Aladdin.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had a feeling this would happen. I mean, I knew it was going to happen at some point. Now that we've let Lion King in, it comes down to I think these three and Snow White. I'm guessing that's what's left.
You still have 101 Dalmatians down there. You got Mary Poppins, Narnia, Empire Strikes Back. So actually, it's really balanced, to be perfectly honest, between Disney animation, live action, big epic Marvel, Star Wars, all has a representation so far. This is, and honestly, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, those are kind of the big. You add in Little Mermaid, those are the big four.
Still Toy Story seems strangely missing because I don't think there's any Pixar.
You're right. Monsters Inc. got bounced out.
But some of that's because we only had Monsters Inc., Toy Story franchise, and Nemo represented.
Well, and again,
Dory was in there, but those three franchises
highest grossing, adjusted for inflation.
Yeah. So it would be. I wonder what it would have had. If we had if we had all animated, where we would be right now.
I don't know. Maybe that's another bracket where we do, or we seed them based on Rotten Tomato scores. We could have done that.
Just I couldn't find the box office rankings for, especially like the movies from the 40s. There just wasn't enough information.
But we have to. You're stalling because you don't want to pick between Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. Yeah, obviously, this is a tough one.
You go first. You're
not tough for me. I'm going Aladdin. It's my favorite all time. I've made the case over and over. So I'm Team Aladdin, but I do respect the difficulty of this decision. I totally do. It's almost like we're three guys here too, and you would think like guys probably skew towards Aladdin. So you got to keep that in mind too. And I try, but it is what it is, So
and I think that that's exactly where I am. It's like the same between Peter Pan and Snow White. Do I go with what I'm kind of torn.
The question is John David going to pick the right answer or the answer for his wife? That's the big question.
But the thing is, I don't want to say it because I want Dad to try and figure it out.
I'm gonna be but I don't know because I know you like Aladdin, so I'm gonna go with the one nominated for Best Picture. The only one, Beauty and the Beast.
Wow. Beauty and the Beast.
It's like a 98 and a 97.5. I mean, it's like a. That's just what I'm leaning today.
And it's gonna.
And there are a couple of things that, it's tough.
Oof! Here we go again.
I need to remind you the number one song.
Yes.
Once again, Aladdin, Whole New World. Although I will say that I bet the soundtrack for Beauty and the Beast actually sold more. I'm going to look that up while you talk, JD.
Yeah. So it's definitely a battle. Definitely, these two are definitely my top 10 favorite Disney movies, maybe top 5. McKay's favorite, Beauty and the Beast. If she was here right now, she'd be screaming that if you guys don't pick Beauty and the Beast, you're crazy. I also just love Aladdin, though, and McKay also loves Aladdin. The thing that I love about Aladdin that's so unique is that it's a princess movie. They have a princess. They have Jasmine, which is a great character, but it's centered around Aladdin, who by the end has that royalty prince role, but is nothing in the beginning. So it's kind of a unique perspective of people see it kind of as a princess movie, but it's kind of not, and it's just a balance. It's a balance that both sides can really enjoy. Again, growing up with sisters, you're always looking for a compromise. So loved watching Aladdin. Beauty and the Beast, love the soundtrack. It's tough. It's tough, and McKay's going to kill me, but I'm going to give it to Aladdin because it's just too good. It's just too good.
Wow. Yeah, and
Tell McKay I was there for her.
Yeah. We'll see. Gosh, it's so. I hate that
Frozen outsold it. Actually, The Lion King sold 15 million copies.
Wow.
The soundtrack.
Yeah. And I can't find Beauty and the Beast number. It's not on the top list, so it was outsold by Aladdin. Aladdin's like number 7.
Dang.
Pretty interesting. But Aladdin's moving on. Wow. I mean, that's a coin flip. Another really close down to the wire matchup.
Again,
there.
right. This is the three of us, and if we had the ladies in here, this could have gone a different direction.
Could have gone either way for sure, and that's with all these, man.
Yeah.
Especially these 2-1 ones. There's very few obvious answers here at this point, and it's just like the tournament. Once it gets down, they're all good teams, right?
Yeah,
you got to play somebody good. So moving in, we got 2 matchups left. We're now in the Midwest region. We got 101 Dalmatians against Mary Poppins. One of those classics are out of here. Which one is it?
Gosh, this is tough for me. I love 101 Dalmatians. Like, it is one of my favorites to watch. Like, if I'm just studying or something and I want to have something in the background, 101 Dalmatians is like one of the movies that I'll play. But Mary Poppins is iconic. Gosh.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say David convinced me from the last round to pick Mary Poppins this round. So
Yeah.
I'm Mary Poppins for all the reasons David mentioned in the last round when it upset Pinocchio. Because it's sort of like, how you lose to the championship team early in the tournament if you ever played sports, and you always go out, well, we lost. We were the second best team, even though we lost in the first round. I feel like that for Pinocchio. I feel like if Pinocchio loses to the eventual champion, it actually raises its status a little bit. And I think 101 Dalmatians is fantastic, but I'm going to go with Mary Poppins. So I'll let you guys duke it out.
I guess. Am I next? Or are you going?
I mean, I think we're both going to – I'm going to say Mary Poppins as well.
Yeah.
Because, again, what Dustin just said, it brought back all the things that you said, Dad, about Mary Poppins. And it's just too iconic. It's too good.
I would like to see Mary Poppins in a duel with Darth Vader.
Wow. Who would win?
Whose force would come?
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm going to have to say it's just a little bit more epic even than Dalmatians. And Dalmatians is, I love it. And I think I'm so glad to see it was on this list because I've always thought it was one of the most underrated movies, not just animated. Like, that is it is such a good action movie, and it's so well done.
Well, good movies lose in the Sweet 16 sometimes, and it had a good run.
Yeah.
And maybe next year it comes back and gets back into it. But Mary Poppins moving on, unanimous. Our final matchup of today to lock in the Elite Eight is the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe versus Empire Strikes Back.
Oof.
So we got Aslan versus Darth Vader.
Aslan versus this is the Darth Vader. Like, he shines in this for sure.
Yeah. I love Narnia and nostalgic all the way. But just movie wise and cinema wise, I'm gonna have to go with Empire Strikes Back. Sad to say it, but I do.
I want to pick Narnia.
Yeah.
But I think, like, for the integrity of our bracket, there's a part that Empire is kind of like legendary in kind of in scope and the best of all of them. Won all the awards, critical acclaim. Although in the other bracket, you got Star Wars against Return of the Jedi. One of those is going to the Final Four. But we shouldn't, choose based on what's happening in the rest of the bracket. So I'm going to agree with JD and say Empire Strikes Back. David, what about you?
But did you know that George Lucas got the idea for Star Wars reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Really?
Is that true?
I'm making that up.
Wow.
No, I totally made that up. Do not repeat that. Do not repeat that.
I believe you. Put that in the show notes.
Yeah, but I say that's the title.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting though? Like, because it is a battle. It is the battle of good versus evil. It's, it is kind of the same thing. But I'm going to have to go with Star Wars.
All right.
As much as I love Lion, Witch, Wardrobe.
Unanimous. Man, let me tell you what the Elite Eight matchups are, and we'll do this in the next episode. In the East, you have the 2 Star Wars. You have actually the original trilogy is all still alive.
Wow.
They are. I can't believe that.
One of them is getting bounced because they are against each other. Star Wars versus Return of the Jedi. You have Snow White versus The Lion King. So you're going to have a Disney animated movie represented in the Final Four no matter what. Maybe 2 because you have the Avengers versus Aladdin in the next one. And then finally you have Mary Poppins versus Empire Strikes Back. That's the wild. You got 2 wild card. I mean, it's just wild. This is going to be great. Yeah. Wild, no pun intended.
Wild.
Why I love Disney.
Wild.
Boom.
Bing.
I cannot wait. We'll finish this up and yeah, be thinking about those. There's going to be some interesting battles coming up. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, great work, guys. Anything else? Any regrets you have about this? JD, be sure and post this somewhere
for sure,
so people can follow along.
Yeah.
My only regret is that they all can't win.
Yeah, the bracket's a tough thing because again, when you think Marvel, it's like how is there not more Marvel? But it's all so good. Everything can't win, so it's fun.
I mean, I've grown up such a Disney fan, and then I was a Disney fan before I was a Star Wars fan. I mean, because I saw that first. So then, Star Wars but Marvel is so huge, and it's been such a, big part of our family's journey that, I'm just kind of surprised, like, we have 3 Star Wars, we have the 3 biggest Star Wars movies still in there, and so much Marvel got pushed aside.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and you got to remember how this is skewed too. Sometimes it's luck of the draw, like some of those bad matchups, like poor Toy Story, just was up against the wrong stuff. But also, we seeded this based on box office gross. So that being the case, Star Wars had 9. Even Rogue One was on in the tournament. So it would be like the ACC most years. It has the most possibilities of moving on. So it makes sense that there are 3 in the Elite Eight, right, from there. And then you have, you have a lot of Marvel entries too. There's probably Marvel may have 7 or 8 entries itself. So that takes up a lot of spots. So they're going to have more opportunities to move on. But here we are. This is why brackets are so much fun, is because how they get seeded can play into how things shake out and play out, and you have all these interesting matchups you would never get to another way. And I can't wait to do another one of these in the future.
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah.
But this is part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. Thank you for hanging in with us at the Why I Love Disney podcast. Until next time, this is Dustin, David, and JD signing off. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great week.
Have a good one.